So, all right, so we're taking a look at this, and we know that it's got to cross -4. So it's telling you, hey, this has got to cross -4. Now that's an open circle. So remember, when we're drawing our line, skip over an open circle because open circles are special. Okay, now I'm not even going to draw the second line. I'm just going to stay focused right here. This open circle on -4, do we put an equal to bar or no equal to bar? Y'all remember? So open circles are the one time we do not put an equal to bar. And I know it's in orange, it's kind of hard to see, but it does say over there that an open circle is no equal to bar. So which of these on -4 has no equal to bar? Let's see. Now, I know I'm talking a lot to explain that, but if you were just working it, like you should be able to work that pretty darn quickly, if you understand what to do. Okay. Obviously you don't have to talk the way I'm talking. All right. So number 2. So first off, we look for a keyword. And by the way, whenever I tell people to look for keywords, I always get kids that are like, oh, function, that's a keyword. I'm like, oh, really? What does that mean? I don't know. Guys, a keyword is only key if it tells you what to do. So please don't ever go start just underline. I get these kids, I'm like, hey, underline the keyword. And they're like, that's key. Yeah. Okay. And I'm like, you underlined everything. What does that mean? I don't know. Okay. It's only key. Does that make sense? If it doesn't tell you what to do, it's not a keyword. And so I know that you were probably taught by different teachers to like practically underline everything. But to me, if it doesn't tell you what to do, it's not a keyword. So the only thing that tells me what to do in this whole thing is the word range. All these other words don't mean a thing to me. Does that make sense? And so, this is the only thing that matters. All right, so range. Now, as I'm going down to the answers, I notice that I've only got one dot. One dot means there should only be one answer. The number of dots usually, not always, but usually indicates how many numbers you should have in your answer. So notice I only have one answer in all of these, okay? They all just have one answer right here. So whatever the answer is, it's got to go around that. Range is Y's, so all these have Y's, so I can't eliminate anything there. All right, so if range is Y's, when I draw my line, what axis does it have to cross? If range is Y's, it's got to cross the Y axis, right? So we're going to draw a line through the top part of this. Now it's an open circle, so we're going to skip over this, and it has to cross the Y-axis. If you draw a line for range and it crosses the X-axis, you're like, okay, I know I've done something wrong because my answer has to come from the Y-axis. It's a range. All right, what number did we hit? 8. So we're going to mark off A doesn't have 8 and C doesn't have 8. So once again, look at your answers. Your answers are going to help you out. They're practically the same. What's the difference? This has an equal to bar. This doesn't. So we had an open circle here. So do open circles get equal to bars? Nope. So the answer's got to be D. So like I said, the big thing about this is letting the answers help you. And by the way, these test taking tricks, like I use them in English. I use them in biology or science. I use them everywhere. Have y'all ever taken a test and like you read, in what year did blah, 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 blah happen? You're like, I don't know. And then you like 3 or 4 questions later, it says in 1492, blah, 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 blah. You're like, oh, that was the answer to this one up here. And so I let the test, help me out. And so, like I said, I'm not very smart, but I'm a great test taker. And that's what I want to teach you guys is to be good test takers and how to let the test help you out. All right. So right here, with all these words right here, there's only one word that matters in all of this. What's the one word that matters? Domain. The only word that matters right there. All right. So domain is X's. So I know that we're going to the X-axis. All my numbers have to come from this X-axis, okay? All right, how many dots do you see here? 4, right? How many numbers should be in my answer? 4. Look at your answers now. Two of these answers only have two numbers. Immediately, you know it's not C, you know it's not D. So just by knowing those little tricks right there, just little bitty things, you know, now, even if, you know, you have no clue what you're doing, you got a 50-50 shot of getting it right. Okay. So the key thing on this is that all my answers have to come from X. So you're going to go to each dot, and this one's the tricky one right here. This dot, if you actually started this dot, I think that you're going to get the answer, but you started this dot. It's really easy to see that 5 right there. Like, you just can't help it, can you? You look at this dot, it's right next to a 5. Oh, there's a 5 right there. Everything in you is going to want to choose this answer right here. This is why I say you draw a line to the x-axis. Don't just look at it. You go from your dot to the x-axis. We hit -1. Well, both of these have a -1, so that doesn't help. We go from, how are we doing? We go from this dot to the x-axis. We hit 1 right here. Well, both of these have a 1. You go from there. You need a pencil? You said yeah. So we go from this dot down here, we got 2. Only one of these has a 2, and that's B. So if you will be disciplined and draw lines to the appropriate axis on domain and range when you have a picture, then you shouldn't get this wrong. Where kids get it wrong is they just like to look at it, and if it's right next to a number, like I said, I'm ADD, so I get distracted easy, and everything in me would want to choose that 5. And so I've trained myself to draw those lines every single time. All right. So look at this question right here. Once again, we're starting off. Do you see a keyword? Now, even on this, I kind of work backwards. So there's words up here. I can't see them, but there's words up there. Look at your answers. If there's something above it, that's usually where the keyword's going to be. All this junk up here, that's just something to distract you. All that, like I said, I'm not even going to scroll up to look at it because it doesn't matter. But they put all that stuff there just to distract you. The only word that matters, the only word that tells us what to do is range. So what letter is range? And don't forget, we got the poster up there. If you forget, what letter is range? It's the Y's. Okay, so range is Y. So I know that my answers have to come from this axis right here. Now, how many dots do you see on this graph right here? 2, right? How many numbers should be in my answer? 2. Look at your answers. I got 2 of them you can mark off right away. F only has 1 number. That can't be right. G has 1 number. Y'all see how just knowing how many dots there are can make testing easier? This is why I like multiple choice. Okay, it makes it a little bit easier. Okay, you can let the test help you. Now, the problem is it can also trick you. So that's why we got to be disciplined test takers. Okay, so there's 2 dots here, so there had to be 2 numbers. It couldn't be these 2. Look at your answers now. Okay, once again, I'm going to let the test help me here. Look, it's telling you that one of your numbers has to be 0. They both have 0. So the only other thing we need to know here is the second number 90 or 6? Well, we said it, the answer had to come from the y-axis, right? So do you see 90 or do you see 6 on the y-axis? I see 90 right here at the very top. And so that has to be it. That's the top of our, if I drew a line, you don't have to draw a line, but if I drew a line, that would be the top. So it's got to be 90. So the answer would be H. Now, if you want to know how they got 0, remember they drew a line right here and 0 is that right there. So it went from 0 to 90. 0 to 90 on the y-axis. So today is a lot of multiple choice. Okay. And so we're just going through, I'm kind of teaching them how to use their answers to help them. Okay, so I am doing a video now. I'll put it on tonight if you do need help, but if you can go through and do it all, then just go through and do it. All right. All right. Have a good day. All right. All right, so turn your paper. So like I said, I made these really big today so that you can see these really well. So number 4, we're already on the back side. All right, so we're looking for a keyword. Now, you two weren't here when we covered this, all right? So what I'm gonna tell you is that this right here, you're gonna wanna use this thing that says quadratic attributes, okay? Nick, can you see that, eyes-wise, can you see that poster? Okay, so the orange poster over here that says quadratic attributes. So there's keywords all over that right there, and then arrows, so just kind of showing you. The arrows point to where these words are talking about. So like right here, vertex, which is what we're about to talk about. Vertex is pointing right here. And so it's the very top. However, it could also, if this was flipped over, it could be the very bottom. So vertex is the very top and very bottom. These 3 words right here all talk about where it touches the x-axis. The y-intercept is where it touches the y-axis. Axis of symmetry is this that splits it in half, this axis of symmetry. So symmetry is like, if you take a person and split them in half, symmetry says this side looks like this side. So just splitting it in half. So you'll use those words to help you on the test, okay? And that poster will be up there during the test. You'll always be able to use it. All right, so the keyword right here is vertex. So vertex is the very top or the very bottom of our U-shaped graph of our picture. So in this case, it's going to be the very top, okay? So these lines go on forever down here, so there is no end to the bottom, but I do have a very top. So put a dot right there. Okay, so I love multiple choice tests, but multiple choice tests try to trick you, okay? Matter of fact, do you know the names of all the wrong answers? They actually have names, believe it or not, okay? The wrong answers have names. They're called the distractors. Isn't that sad? They purposely put these on here to do what? Distract you, okay? And so they're on multiple choice tests, they're trying to trick you. So we have something that we do to keep ourselves from being tricked. They want to know the location of this point. The location of this point is when you tell me the X and the Y. But we have a trick. We're not going to find the X and the Y. We are only going to find the X. Okay? So all I want you to do is to go up from this dot and tell me what the X is. That's it. If you will tell me the X, you should get the answer. Okay? So what's the X right here? 2. So look at all your answers. Remember, X is always first. If you forget, I got a little poster right there that says X, comma, Y. X always comes first. Which of these has a 2 up front where the X is at? D. Boom, done. You got your answer. Now, had you done the X and the Y at the same time and saw 2 and -3, I can't tell you how many kids choose that as their answer right there. Okay? So we want to make sure that we don't get distracted. Okay? Don't look at the X and the Y. Look at the X. So what happens if we had 2 of these that had a 2? Then you could look at the Y. But at that point, they're not going to trick you. Okay? So we always just take care of the X, eliminate answers. Usually you'll have your answer. And then if we need to take care of the Y, we'll take care of the Y. All right, number 6. Do we see a keyword? Domain. So I do not ever force kids to circle keywords, but I will tell you, if you take the time to underline or circle keywords, it just keeps you from making mistakes. All right. So what is the domain? So domain means we're drawing lines that cross the x-axis. Okay. My answers have to come from this axis. So we're going to draw lines like this, but we got a problem here. When I go to draw my line, what am I hitting right here? An arrow. Are we allowed to draw a line on an arrow? No. Okay, well, I go to this side to do this side. I hit an arrow again. So when I can't draw either of these lines because I'm hitting arrows, we call this all real numbers. Now, my boss that makes these tests, I don't know why, but my boss, when she made the test, instead of putting all real numbers, put infinity symbols. Now, technically, infinity is the same thing as all real numbers, okay? On our STAR tests, though, all they ever put is all real numbers. They don't ever put this infinity symbol. So I don't know why on the test that we're going to be taking next week that they put infinity symbols, but just understand infinity is the same thing as all real numbers. So that's all real numbers. All right. Number 7. Okay, so 2 things here. First off, we have a keyword here, vertex. But then they don't give me a picture, they give me an equation. So we have a rule in this classroom. When you see y equals, we plug it into the calculator every time. All right, so we're going to go to our calculator. So grab your calculator. Did I give all y'all a calculator? Okay, good. We're going to go to graphs, which is the second one. I can't remember if I've told y'all this or not, but a lot of kids like to use Scratchpad. Calculate Scratchpad's okay. Graph Scratchpad is terrible. It screws up all the time. Okay. So I never, ever, ever use this Scratchpad here. Now I get kids that are like, oh, I'm going to use it. And it works for me. Well, it may work, sometimes, but I'm just telling you, it screws up a lot. So when I talk graphs, I always hit this right here. So I'm going to hit that right there. Now, the most important thing about this is your y equals right here. Don't worry about what all this F1, X, don't worry about that. This is y equals. You don't ever type in y equals. We've already got an equal sign. We can't have a second one. So when we see, got lost. So when we see this y equals, we're not typing in y equals, we're typing in 3x squared plus 6x. So we're going to type 3x. Make sure you hit the x at the bottom. That's a letter, not the times symbol. All right. The squared is right next to the 4. So find the 4. The squared is right next to it. I got it in red right now. Okay. So 3x squared. And then what was the plus 6x. Thank you. Plus 6x. All right. So once we get that, you're going to hit enter. And then we always do menu 5-1. Okay. So you may be like, well, why am I doing it? Don't worry about it. Do menu 5-1. So we're going to go menu 5-1. Okay. Now menu 5-1 is not magic pixie dust. It didn't magically give me any kind of answer or anything. But what it did do is it popped up this point right here. And what's awesome is we control the first number in this point. So when we look at this, where'd it go? When we look at this and it says the vertex, and I'm like, okay, vertex was either the very top or the very bottom. And we look at this. Oh, okay. Well, there's only 2 possible answers. So vertex, if you look at this poster, do you see in green next to the word vertex? It says X, comma, Y. It wants both the X and the Y. There's no way it can be B. There's no way it can be C. The question is it A or C? I said it could be C. It can't be D. So it's either A or C. So all we have to do is type in this -3 or type in the -1 and see which one puts me at the vertex. So I'm going to type in -3. So if you've never done this, I don't know if y'all were here when we've done this before, but you literally just type the number. So all you're going to do is type -3 and hit enter. Okay, see this tracer right here? It went like way up here. That's not the vertex. So now let's type -1. So just type -1 and hit enter. And it jumped down here. Mine didn't move, but I can see the tracer right there. And that is the very bottom. That's the vertex right there. So the bottom is -1, -3. So -1, -3, C. All right, number 8. So the only thing that we see here that means anything is this right here. Okay, none of these other words mean anything, okay? Now, I cannot plug this into the calculator exactly, and you two may not have seen this yet, but you have. We can't plug this into the calculator exactly how it looks. Do you remember what we do? No? Okay, that's fine. This is why I like to keep reviewing all this stuff. So this was in our unit 1, and like I said, I think you guys missed this one when we were talking about it. So we have a place where we can do equations, okay? And equations are done under calculator under what's called InSolve, menu 3.1. Okay, so hopefully y'all have done InSolve before, maybe in junior high, 8th grade, something like that. Y'all have done InSolve. If not, we're going to teach it to you right now. But InSolve only works when there's an equal sign. And so when we have this symbol right here, I can't plug this under InSolve, so I change it to an equal sign. Do you remember doing that? Where we change this to an equal sign and then we type it in? Okay. That's right, because you kind of came in from her class originally. Yeah, that's right. All right, so maybe none of us know this, so let's talk about this. All right, we're going to go to our calculator. So I want you to go this time to regular calculator. So hit the home button, and we're going to the first button right here, the regular calculator. It should just give you a blank screen. Okay, so the rule is if we have one equation, then you're going to hit menu 3.1. And I have it right here. It's in pink so that it stands out. It's called InSolve, but you hit menu 3.1. And it's under regular calculator. So that's how I set this up. This is the stuff we do under regular calculator. Okay, so we hit menu 3.1 and it pops up this little InSolve thing. All right, we are going to type in this question right here. Go back to this. So we're going to type in this question right here. But instead of this inequality symbol, we're going to put an equal sign because it won't work if we put this inequality symbol. So we got minus 3. Oh, okay. So this is personal to y'all. Everybody can do this different. Some kids always like to put X. Some kids like to put what they see. If you want to put X, you can. If you want to put the letter P, you can. I usually just put what I see. So I'm going to put the letter P, minus 2, parentheses, 6 minus P, close parentheses. Okay, so right here, we're not putting the greater than symbol, we're putting equals, and then minus 7. Okay, to finish this up, you have to tell the program that you're done. And the way you do that is with a comma. So you're going to put a comma there. Then you have to tell it what letter you're looking for. Well, I use the letter P, so I'm going to put a P here. If you use the letter X, you're going to put an X there. But you have to tell it what letter you're looking for. I know that seems stupid, like, duh, put the letter there, but that's just the way this calculator works. So you got to put comma P or comma X at the end, depending on what letter you used. Then you just hit enter, and it does all the work for you. Okay? So you should never, ever, ever miss an equation, a basic equation. It'll do all the work for you, okay? Now, the thing is that all this does is give us the number. So we're hoping all the numbers are different. Are all the numbers different today? Sometimes they are. Oh, they are. No, they're not. Dang it. Okay, so we can mark off A and D. We know that it's got to be one of these two. The problem is at this point, I don't know which one, okay? Now, some kids will say, well, you choose the way it looks. That's not true. Sometimes these flip, okay? So you got a 50-50 shot, okay? You just pick which one that you want. Now, I'm not going to lie. I have a strategy in my life that I use. Anytime I don't know, I guess C if C's an option. And C's an option. So if I don't know and C's an option, I always go with C. Okay. Now, I get kids going, well, I don't want to guess. How do I get the exact answer? The only way to get the exact answer is to actually work all this out step by step by step. So you would have to know how to do the distributive property, combine like terms, get all the the numbers to one side to solve for the letter. If you're good at that, by all means do that. But if you're not good at it, then this gives us our best shot right here. And sometimes all the numbers are different and it gives you the answer. All right. We'll keep working on that. So that's something, like I said, we do a lot of reviews, so we'll keep working on that so that we get good at that. All right. Now, this is going to seem kind of crazy, but two things. First off, I was supposed to teach you these two things in this unit. I want you to look at this. Doesn't that just look like Chinese right there? Okay. I actually got a poster for this up on the back. And even when you look at the poster, you're like, what in the crap is that? So here's the thing. Even if I taught this, it would just be, it's really tough and most kids just don't understand it. Because of the fact that, we've lost a lot of time because of COVID, because of ICE, because of all this crap, I decided I wasn't going to teach this, but we still need a strategy, okay? Now, number 10, the strategy is really easy. When you don't know, we pick one letter. My letter's C. You don't have to pick C if you got something against C, but please pick one letter and you always choose that answer. I am always going to choose C. So on number 10, I kind of look at this right here. I don't see any keywords. I see this crazy N-1, stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to guess C. Now, I want y'all to think about this, guys. This is going to change how you test, okay? I tell kids all the time, this year will be the easiest STAR test you've ever taken. And kids are like, no, I guarantee you guys, I have more kids come out of the STAR test. And I'm like, how was the test? They're like, oh my God, that was so easy. Now, does that mean that there weren't hard questions? No, there were hard questions. But what do I teach my kids to do on hard questions? Do they sit there and go, no, they're like, I don't know that one, C, and they move on. And so all of a sudden, I mean, just telling you, it changes the way you test, because instead of, like, nothing ticks me off more as a teacher. Like, we give a test and I'm sitting here just walking around and I see some kid like, well, what are you doing? Do you know what you're doing? No, guess C and move on. Like, it's like, you should never let a test stress you out. You've never passed a test because of a hard question. Okay. I've never passed a test because of question 10. Okay. I passed the test because I got all the other easy questions. Does that make sense? So we want to teach you that you don't stress over hard questions. I'm telling you, it's going to change your life, but we got to have a plan. And our plan is we always get C. Okay. And it works. I promise you, if you buy into it and you start doing it, Kiki, I can't pronounce her first name. She goes, I'll just go by Kiki. Kiki said she used this in biology, I think. She was like, oh, I didn't know a whole bunch and I guessed a lot of C's and I passed the test. I'm like, I'm telling you, it works. Now, you still got to get easy questions. You can't guess C on the whole test. But like I said, that's what we do and it works. All right. What do we do on number 9, though? Okay. We have a strategy for these as well. Now, usually, there's some boxes here. So on the test, there'll be these boxes like this right here. Usually I have this on the paper. I don't know why I didn't have it today. And it kind of is like this griddable over here. It just has these boxes and it'll have this negative and plus sign right there. So in the very first box, you can't put any numbers, okay? And we'll talk more about this as we get closer to the test. You can only put a plus or a minus sign on this. All the numbers will start in the second box. So what do? We don't leave it blank. Leaving it blank is the worst thing you could do. We also don't want to put something stupid like, well, I don't know, I'm going to put 0.34297. Like, what's the chance that that's the answer? None. Most answers fall between 1 and 20. Okay. My number's 5. Anytime I look at something, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to put the number 5 every single time. Okay. I don't care what number you put, but put a number between 1 and 20. Now, sometimes those numbers are positive, sometimes they're negative. So we were doing the final when we came back after Christmas break. We had to take the final, right? So I had this kid, and he had a question like this, and he didn't know what he was doing. And he's like, I don't know. And he was going to leave it blank. I'm like, no, don't leave it blank. I'm like, yes. He was like, I don't know. And he puts 12 down. And I'm like, oh my God, you just guessed it. That was the answer. It was 12. And I was like, of course, I'm the teacher. I can't say anything, you know. But in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, he just guessed it. And then he went and put a negative in. I'm like, oh, he had it. And then he switched it to negative. Now, in the end, sometimes it is negative, so it's okay to put a negative. But what I would say is if you're going to put negative, always put a negative. Whatever your number is, always put that same number. So I always put just a +5. So I always just put 5 right there. All right. So for today, I just want you to write, whatever your number is. Don't write 5 unless 5 is your number. But whatever your number is going to be, just write that number right there. Okay. And that way, so right now, what you're kind of saying is this is my number when I test. So, and that means if there's 4 questions, that are like, you know, what we call gridables, and you don't know any of them, you're going to guess, I'm going to guess 5 on every single one of them. Does that make sense? Okay. And I'm just hoping one of them's a 5. All right. Sorry, I know I'm wasting a lot of time talking about these strategies, but these strategies are important. All right. Zeros are one of the easiest questions we got. Zeros are just where it crosses the x-axis. So this red line crosses the x-axis twice. So it crosses at -1 and 3. Look at your answers. Yep, D. Love zeros. Okay. Easiest questions on the STAR test. Number 12. It only crosses, or it only touches 1 time. So what's the only zero? -3. We got an answer. It just has -3? B. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is what the boxes look like. I don't know why I didn't have one up above, but this is what the boxes look like. All right. So what do we see here that tells me what to do? I see this right here. Remember, 2 letters back to back make a Y. This is Y equals. So we're going to our calculator. So let's go plug this into our calculator. So we're going to graphs. So Y equals is a graphs thing. Okay. Y equals, we're going to graphs, and we don't type in the Y equals. Okay, we type in everything after the equal sign. So we're going to type in minus. And by the way, if I haven't told y'all this, I don't know if y'all have noticed, I never, ever, ever use this negative sign. Well, that's a lie. There's one time I use it, but we're not going to get to it for a while. So I always use the minus sign. The reason is the negative sign is the button of the devil, and the devil lies. Sometimes the negative sign works and sometimes it doesn't. If you use the minus sign, it always works. Even though you're like, but that's a negative, that's not a minus, it still works. So I always use the minus sign. So minus 3x squared plus 5x. Thank you, minus 2. All right, so after we type it in, we always hit enter. And then what do we always hit after that? Menu 5-1. So always hit menu 5-1. Now remember, this is not magic pixie dust. This doesn't mean anything to me right here, but it allows me to go look. So go look at your paper. Just look around this problem. Do you see any extra numbers? Yeah, we see the number 4, right? Well, go type in the number 4. And you're like, but what does it mean? Well, what it means is it's replacing this X. But even if you don't know what it means, just type it in and see what happens. So we're going to go just type in 4 and hit enter. So just type 4 and hit enter. And when you see, okay, here's the 4 you typed in. What number do you see now? That's your answer, -30 right there. So you just type in that number and see what happens, and it pops up the answer. So what it's saying is that 4 took the place of X. It wanted you to plug in 4 and see what the Y became, and the Y was 30. But even if you don't understand that, you just type it in and see what happens. So the negative has to go right here. And then you can start numbers in the second box. You never put a number in this front box right here, or it will count it wrong. In the stupid program that we use, it like barely highlights it red. Like you can't even see it. Like I wish it was like, bing, like, oh crap, I did something wrong. But it just barely highlights it red, and you can't even tell you've done anything wrong, and it's going to count it wrong. So just make sure you know this front box is only for a positive and negative. All right, so see if you can do this one real quick. So same thing. We have this Y equals. Let's go plug it in. So my calculator. All right, so open a brand new graph every time that you do a new problem, a brand new graph. So we got 2x squared.
It's 9.
It's 9. Is that an option? Yep, sure is. Minus 5x minus 3. Hit enter. We always hit menu 5-1. And then we see a random number there, that 4 right there. So we type in that 4, hit enter, and yep, 4 and 9. So the answer is 9. So the answer is D. Do y'all remember how to tell if something's a function?
Yeah, let's see. Let's know this.
All right, so you look only at the x's, and the numbers are not allowed to repeat. If they repeat, then it's not an option. So the 2 negative 4s is what repeat. So it's not a function because negative 4 repeats. $16. Okay, this looks crazy, doesn't it? But I want you to see how our testing strategy is going to help you out here. Do you see a y equals? Don't worry about how crazy this looks. If we see a y equals, what do? Plug it in the calculator, right? So let's go follow our strategy. This is why it's important to have a strategy, okay? Because when you look at that, you might be going, I don't understand what this is saying. But I see y equals, so we're going to type in 2x minus 5 and hit enter. What do we always do after that? Menu 5-1. Okay, so then we say if we have a random number, I actually have 4 random numbers, don't I? Let's start typing them in. So we're going to type in -1 and hit enter. When I type in -1, what do I get? Look at your answers. Mark off A and mark off B. There's no -7. Y'all see what I'm doing there? All right, well, we have another random number, 1. So let's type in 1 and hit enter. I got -3. What's the answer?
D.
It's got to be D. So see, even though that problem looked weird, our strategy made it to where that problem wasn't bad at all. So the answer was D. And then these right here, we're just going to do this really quick. Which is a function? Not a function. A is not a function because the vertical line crosses it twice. B is not a function because 0 has 2 lines. C, oh, that looks like a function right there. C is a function because if I draw a vertical line, it only touches it once. So C is a function. D was not a function. And then the next one says which one is not a function. Okay, so this one right here, I'm already on C and D on my thing. This is a function, so this is not the answer because it's looking for which one is not a function. D is not a function because 1 has 2 lines. That is not a function. All right, make sure your name's on this. And we are done.